Good morning, I'm Stephen Romo.
And I'm Lindsay Reiser. Joe and Savannah are off this morning. Right now on Morning News Now, celebration of life. Thousands pay tribute to Tyre Nichols in Memphis at his funeral, including Vice President Kamala Harris. The service was also a public outcry for police reform following the brutal police beating that led to Nichols' death.
This violent act was not in pursuit of public safety. One must ask, was not it in the interest of keeping the public safe that Tyre Nichols would be with us here today?
We'll take a look at how Tyre Nichols was honored in Memphis, plus the new information we're learning about the former officers charged over his beating. Also this morning, more to come. The Fed raises the interest rate and warns this is not the last increase. We'll break down what this new hike means for your wallet and what may need to happen to put an end to rate increases. A helping hand. This morning, we're getting a look at a program providing guaranteed income to thousands of people. The impact these monthly checks are already having on one of the country's largest cities, plus whether a program like this could work elsewhere. And listen up, there's a lot going on in the music world. Beyonce just announcing her world tour, but will this be a repeat of that chaotic rollout of Taylor Swift's ticket sales? We're going to explain what's changing this time around. Plus, we're taking a look at the big names nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year.
Ooh, the Ticketmaster drama. I hope not.
I know. I hope not, too. But that list of the Hall of Fame, it's like these people aren't in it already.
I know.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's a great point. We'll get on to that later on.
Yeah, we're going to start this morning in Memphis, where Tyre Nichols has been laid to rest. The 29-year-old FedEx worker died January 10th, 3 days after he was brutally beaten by police officers.
Yeah, and thousands gathered yesterday with civil rights leaders and Vice President Kamala Harris also in attendance there. They remembered Nichols' life through song, prayer, and reflection.
Today, as we celebrate Tyre's life and comfort this family, we serve notice to this nation that the rerun of this episode that makes Black Lives hashtags has been canceled and will not be renewed for another season. We have come and we shall overcome.
5 black men that wouldn't have had a job in the police department, in the city that Dr. King lost his life, not far away from that balcony, you beat a brother to death. There's nothing more insulting and offensive to those of us that fight to open doors.
One must ask, was not it in the interest of keeping the public safe that Tyre Nichols would be with us here today? Was he not also entitled to the right to be safe?
Let's never let them forget Memphis, because his legacy will be one of equal justice.
On the night of January 7th, my brother was robbed of his life, his passions and his talents, but not his light.
This is a continuous fight that we have to fight for.
That's right.
We have to fight for justice.
Yeah.
We cannot continue to let these people brutalize our kids.
That's right.
Some powerful messages there. NBC correspondent Allison Barber joins us now from Memphis with more on this. Just such an emotional day yesterday, Allison, and of course, an impossibly difficult time for Tyre's family. How did they react to this huge outpouring of support?
Yeah, you know, they remembered the life that he lived. He was one of 4, the youngest of his siblings. We heard from his siblings. We heard from his mother, his stepfather, members of family, close friends. He was also the father of a 4-year-old little boy named Milo. They talked about the type of person that he was, the things that he loved to do. They also talked about the way he left this earth, his mother making a very emotional plea that his death not be in vain, that it leads to real change. Listen.
I want to thank all the community activists for being there for my family. The only thing that's keeping me going is the fact that I really truly believe my son was sitting here on an assignment from God. And I guess now his assignment is done and he's been taken home.
We repeatedly heard from his mother, Reverend Al Sharpton. Vice President Kamala Harris calls for Congress, the federal government, to pass the George Floyd Policing and Justice Act. Vice President Harris saying if that gets to Joe Biden's desk, he will immediately sign it. We also heard the attorney for Tyre's family, Ben Crump, say that he believes Tyre's legacy will ultimately be one of justice swiftly. Stephen, Lindsay.
Ellison, let's shift to the ongoing investigation surrounding Nichols' death. NBC News has obtained an unofficial copy of the police report, and the DA's office confirms it is reviewing the official report, which matches the account outlined in the unofficial copy received by NBC News. That account, frankly, does not match what we saw in those videos showing officers brutally beating Tyre. Lay out some of the discrepancies for us, and when can we expect the official report to be released?
Yeah, so that's a key point here. The official report has not been released by the Memphis Police Department. They say that it will be released soon, but they're also not confirming the contents of this report. This initially surfaced on a Facebook post by a local radio host, local blogger here. NBC News has confirmed via the district attorney's office that a report they have matches this language almost exactly. And as you said, the biggest takeaway here is that what is documented and written in this initial police report of the arrest and the incidents of the interactions with Tyre Nichols is largely unsubstantiated in the body camera footage that we have seen. It begins by saying that Tyre Nichols was pulled over for recklessly driving. They say that he was driving recklessly and driving in the other lane towards oncoming traffic when he was stopped. The police chief has said to date they have not seen any evidence to suggest that Tyre Nichols was recklessly driving to begin with to justify this stop. But that being said, when you look at the video that we have, and I'm going to read for you some of the things that are said specifically in this report, because I think it's important that you hear it and think about what we've seen in the body camera footage. This begins by claiming that Nichols was refusing a lawful detention by law enforcement officers and that he started to fight with detectives. We know from early in the body camera videos that that is not true, that he did not initiate any sort of physical altercation. The officers did that based on the video that we have seen. It also says that when officers caught up with Tyre Nichols at that second scene where he was so severely beaten, that Nichols was actively resisting police pulling on their duty belts and grabbing one of the officers by his vest. They claim that he was given multiple commands to stop resisting and kept ignoring it. Then a chemical agent was deployed that was ineffective. Then they talk about him being hit with a baton. They do not mention even once, Lindsay and Stephen, that these officers punched, kicked, and beat Tyre Nichols.
So much more to come from that police report. Ellison Barber, thank you.
The death of Tyre Nichols has renewed pressure on the Biden administration to pass outstanding police reform bills that were drafted nearly 2 years ago. The spotlight is also on a deeply divided Congress to quickly act after lawmakers failed to find common ground back in 2021. NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now with more. So, Julie, good morning. President Biden is expected to meet with members of the Congressional Black Caucus later today. What can we expect?
Yeah, look, this meeting is coming just days away from the State of the Union when President Biden addresses Congress on Tuesday at such a pivotal moment for his presidency, but also in this moment because seated behind him will be the parents of Tyre Nichols as invited by the Congressional Black Caucus, who will meet with the president later today. Their number one ask is that he keep this issue at the front of mind for Congress, putting pressure on, of course, the divided government. They're well aware of the challenges in passing federal legislation, especially as comprehensive as they want it to be. But their main ask for President Biden is that he do everything he can from his podium at the White House in executive power. Of course, the White House pushing back on how much they can do without Congress's help. But for the Congressional Black Caucus, this is a moment about keeping the death of an unarmed Black man at the forefront of this issue.
Julie, let's listen to what President Biden has said regarding police reform legislation. This is what he said last week.
I spoke with Tyre's mother and expressed my condolences and told her that I was going to be making the case to the Congress they should pass the George Floyd Act. We should get this under control. I can only do so much in an executive order at a federal level.
So, Julie, we know there's the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. And just yesterday, Attorney Ben Crump at the memorial said that there's going to be a Tyre Nichols bill also for a duty to intervene. If officers see something at the scene that's going on, they have a duty to intervene. Initially, why did we see a stall in these negotiations? And is there any hope for bipartisanship now?
Yeah, you'll remember well, Lindsay, that there was a national uprising in the wake of the death of George Floyd, and Congress took that momentum and the timing to really try to hammer out a bipartisan proposal when it was clear that the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act wouldn't pass. What could? Well, negotiations stalled, and we covered those closely between Senators Tim Scott and Senator Cory Booker, at the time the only two Black men in the Senate, and they stalled over the issue of qualified immunity, those legal protections from officers, preventing them from facing lawsuit after lawsuit. That was really a sticking point, and Republicans had an opening, even most recently last week, with Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott repeating this notion of perhaps putting those lawsuits on the police department rather than individual officers. But at the end of the day, this is going to be all about momentum and timing, and it is not clear if the Senate can come together to do something. And even if they can, will it pass the House with such a small margin, just 4-seat majority for Kevin McCarthy with Republicans there? And I should know one of the Republicans from New York, a freshman, a former New York Police Department officer, had opened the door for perhaps addressing this from a federal perspective. But until Republican leadership buys on, this is just going nowhere.
All right, Julie, I got to be quick with you, but we have this looming debt ceiling decision here. We know the president and Kevin McCarthy met yesterday. What happened?
Yeah, look, well, they had a really good meeting. That's what Kevin McCarthy said coming out of it. The White House was a little bit more bullish on their characterization, but McCarthy, in a gaggle with reporters afterwards, said, look, we went into this on opposite pages. The White House had said they wouldn't even sit and negotiate with me on this, but they did spend that hour talking about the debt limit. Of course, we still have 5 months until that official deadline comes this summer, which is like a lifetime in Congress. So we anticipate this meeting to be the first of many, and certainly not the last, between the president and the speaker here.
Okay, Julie Sirkin, thank you.
All right, now to the latest on President Biden's handling of classified materials, specifically during his time as vice president in the Obama White House. The FBI reportedly found no classified documents yesterday during what Biden's personal lawyer calls a planned search of Biden's home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. A source tells NBC News no warrant was involved in this, and the president consented to that search. Well, for the latest on this, let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli. Mike, good morning to you. And since this was consented to, it seems like the White House could have gotten out in front of this. Instead, we've had sort of this drip of information here. Do we know why they didn't do that and what they are saying now?
Well, Stephen, it's interesting. This is now the third property connected to the president that has been searched by FBI agents. This was the first time, though, that we knew about the search in real time, and there's a good reason for that. News organizations, including NBC News, had cameras nearby and were able to see those FBI agents as they arrived. And so the search of his beach home was something, yes, that we were expecting, but it also raises the question of, now that all the obvious locations have been searched, what additional locations might be searched as part of this investigation? It was a question that we posed to the spokesperson for the White House counsel's office yesterday, Ian Sams. Let's take a listen to that exchange.
I think we're providing information as this goes on and answering questions about the search activities as they've been happening. I don't want to speak too much to the DOJ's practices in an ongoing investigation. I can say, that we have cooperated fully. The president's personal attorneys have provided information to DOJ.
So obviously not a clear answer there. But what's also significant, Stephen, is that, yes, the statement from the president's personal lawyer, Bob Bauer, said that no documents with classified markings were found during this search yesterday. He also, though, said that they did take some handwritten notes yet again from the president's residence here. That's significant because, as we know from the search of his Wilmington home, these notebooks contain notes not just from his time as vice president, but from his time in the Senate. There could be information that should be classified in that if it pertains to his notes taken during classified briefings or briefings on foreign policy. And so that speaks to the unpredictability of where this investigation goes in the future.
Yeah, a lot of questions left. We didn't get a ton of answers yesterday from the council outside there. Well, we know that other people along with President Biden have been caught up in these classified document investigations. Talk to us about that bipartisan bill that we've heard that could overhaul the whole process around classifying documents and the process for getting them turned back over for former White House officials. How would that address this situation?
Yeah, this is really interesting. We heard yesterday from the Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, who suggested that he is actually working with his Democratic counterpart, Jamie Raskin, from Maryland on the Homeland Security Committee, to talk about the possibility of legislation that would rein in this process. Because up till now, Stephen, it's been something of an honor system for outgoing staff at the end of each administration to pack up their things and to expect that they're taking only those things which they should be, not presidential records, not classified records. We know there's also bipartisan outrage in the Senate, including from the Democratic chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner, about the fact that this is now an ongoing problem spanning multiple administrations. It's a bipartisan problem, as we see with former Vice President Mike Pence, and it needs a bipartisan solution, especially this issue of overclassification as well. That's something that these lawmakers might also be looking into.
Yeah, a lot to tackle here. And quickly, Mike, I just wanted to ask you, what can we expect moving forward for Biden, and where do things stand with the special counsel?
Yeah, well, yesterday was a significant day in this regard as well. Robert Hur, the special counsel, his first full day on the job, so now he has a chance to put his stamp on the investigation. I mentioned the question of whether there are additional locations that the FBI might be interested in searching related to the president. One other big question is whether the president himself might be among the interviews we expect to begin of key staff as well as key principals like the president. Ron Klain, the outgoing White House chief of staff, telling our colleague Lawrence O'Donnell last night that the direction from the president is to fully cooperate and that would include an interview with the president and the special counsel.
All right, more to come on that. Mike Memley, thank you.
The Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 1/4 percentage point yesterday, as expected, but said more hikes would be needed to bring inflation down.
Yeah, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell said that while inflation has improved some, it's still too early to declare victory.
The inflation data received over the past 3 months show a welcome reduction in the monthly pace of increases. And while recent developments are encouraging, we will need substantially more evidence to be confident that inflation is on a sustained downward path.
Well, Rick Newman is a senior columnist at Yahoo Finance and joins us now to talk more about this and what it means for you. So, Rick, good morning to you. Thanks for being here. Markets seem to be encouraged by Powell's words on inflation yesterday. What did you make of the hike and his comments?
It's very interesting to look at the stock market reaction relative to the timing of what comes out of the Fed on these days. And what happened yesterday was when the announcement came that they were raising rates by 1/4 point, that was at 2 p.m., markets didn't really move very much. Then they drifted down a little bit. And then when Powell started speaking, within minutes, the stocks jumped yesterday. And the reason for that is investors liked what Powell had to say because he sounded different. It sounded like he was beginning to say, maybe we are accomplishing the job here. Maybe inflation is coming down enough so that we can stop raising interest rates sometime soon. So what seems likely is there's going to be one more 1/4 point interest rate hike next month, and then that could be it. That might be everything. And of course, the real determinant here is what happens with inflation. As Powell said, it has come down. It needs to come down more, but there's a lag of months between what the Fed does with raising interest rates and its effect on inflation. So things are going in the right direction, and generally, this is good news.
Rick, do you see any universe in which rates could actually go down this year?
Rates have been going down. So what we're talking about here with the Federal Reserve are these rates that the Federal Reserve charges to banks, and those do affect interest rates in the real market, but not directly, and some of those interest rates move on their own. So what we've seen this year is mortgage rates, for example, went as high as a little bit over 7%, and they are now down to about just a little over 6%. So what that tells you is that the market is deciding that we may be close to as high as interest rates are going to get. Demand for loans also factors into that. But I think if you're somebody who's considering buying a house or a car, for example, and borrowing the money, that this probably means that mortgage rates and car loan rates are topping out. You can never say for sure, but we may be as high as it's going to get in terms of the cost of financing these things.
And sticking on that topic there, what is your advice to people trying to navigate that situation with mortgages and credit cards? They have a lot of questions about what this actually means for them.
Well, the housing market is the most interesting part of this because one of the effects of rising interest rates is that demand for houses has slowed down, and that is actually bringing home prices down. Of course, we saw a big jump in home prices during COVID when interest rates were at record lows, and a lot of people just wanted to buy homes during that time. So prices shot up, and now they are inching down. So if you want to buy a home and you can wait, there is reason to think that prices are going to drift down a little bit more from where they are right now. They're not going to crash. Prices are not going to crash like they did after the housing bust in 2006, but they probably are going to come down a little bit more. And it's possible that maybe mortgage rates are going to stay where they are. So there may be no penalty to waiting if you want to buy a home. And I will say, as for cars, car prices are going to stabilize as well. And if you're looking for a used car, those prices are also coming down. So that's another area where we saw this huge surge in prices last year. That has reversed. And at this point, there's really no harm to waiting if you're saving money and thinking about buying one of these things.
All right, Rick Newman, good advice. Thank you.
See you guys.
Well, the South has been getting hit with ice storms and severe winter weather over these past few days, but now that could be shifting to rain as that cold Arctic air moves east.
Angie Lastman is here with your Morning News Now weather forecast. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, it's been a busy couple of days for folks in the South. We've seen numerous images coming out of places specifically like Texas that you'll see right here with icy roads, issues with folks traveling on those roads. We've seen plenty of flight cancellations, and not to mention a lot of ice accumulation that has broken branches and down power lines. So here's the situation right now. We're still dealing with a whole lot of rain and even some freezing rain and even some snow and a wintry mix in parts of really the south central to the southeast. And that's going to be where we watch for that bullseye of impacts for today. We still do have 23 million people under these winter alerts, but notice they're coming down. This looks a lot smaller than it did just a couple hours ago. And as the system continues its trek to the east, these will also be eliminated. We still have maybe another 1/10 of an inch or so that can be expected in a few spots around parts of the south central United States. But now we're going to turn our attention to that warmer aspect of that system where temperatures are above freezing and we're seeing just rain, but heavy rain at that could lead to some potentially flooding conditions later today. So here's where that system moves. Most of the southeast is going to be impacted by this heavy rain. And as we get into basically tomorrow, we'll see northern portions of Florida dealing with the rain and even the potential for some strong storms as we get through the system and on the other side of it. Here's those rainfall accumulations that we're expecting, about an inch in some spots, Montgomery, Hattiesburg included in that, but we could see isolated amounts up to 2 inches, hence the reason that we're watching for some potential flooding concerns. There's that flash flood slight risk where you see that brighter blue is there's less of a chance for us to see some of that, but check out these alerts that are up for wind chills. 42 million people. These alerts, on the other hand, are expanding because we have a whole lot of Arctic air working in, secondary push of it working through parts of the plains and into the Great Lakes and Midwest over the day today. Minus 22 temperatures are what we're going to be expecting for days here in many places across the country. If you're looking ahead to tomorrow, just 14 degrees in Detroit, 29 in New York. That doesn't look bad when you compare it to what we'll wake up to on Saturday morning. -1 in Boston, 5 for Nantucket, 11 degrees below zero for what it will feel like in New York on Saturday morning. I don't know, guys. Maybe we just stay in bed all day because these temperatures, while, I could show you the high temperatures, they're not much better than that. And we'll have falling temperatures all day as that air rushes in and brings us back to reality of winter.
You knew I had to go to work on Saturday, didn't you? You just had to rub that in.
Listen, I want to see a picture of you on social media all bundled up.
Nobody needs to see that.
It'll happen. It's rough. Appreciate it, Angie. Thank you.
All right, coming up, when the public COVID emergency ends in May, so does Title 42.
Yeah, that measure has blocked more than 2 million border crossings since 2020. So what happens once that rule is lifted? We're taking a look at the next steps coming up in just a couple minutes. You're watching Morning News Now. Welcome back. President Biden has made it clear that the national COVID public health emergency, well, that's going to end in May.
And as part of that decision, Title 42, which blocked more than 2 million border crossings, will also come to an end. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us now to explain a little more. So, Julia, good morning. Walk us through, remind us again what Title 42 is and what's expected to happen when it expires.
Right. So Title 42 went in place right when the pandemic began in March of 2020, and it blocked anyone from crossing the border to be able to claim asylum and where they could stay in the United States and see that asylum claim played out. Instead, they're not deported. They're pushed right back into Mexico, many of them living in pretty terrible conditions along that northern Mexico border in tent camps. And this has happened over 2 million times. Now, there are definitely some exceptions. A lot of countries that couldn't take back their deportees. Mexico also refused to take back young children, unaccompanied children, lots of exceptions. But as you pointed out, more than 2 million times Border Patrol encountered migrants since March of 2020. They've pushed them back into Mexico. And by and large, it's been expected from every party and every border official I've talked to that when Title 42 lifts, there will be more of a surge at the border simply because of pent-up demand, and people will see it as a time that maybe the policies are shifting. They might see it as a magnet and a time to come.
But, Julia, this is not the first time the Biden administration has tried to lift Title 42. If you could remind us what happened the last time they tried this.
Yeah, that's right. They tried about a year ago. They announced April 1st that it would be lifting on May 23rd, but then a judge in Louisiana put a block on that. Then again in December, we thought it would lift due to another court order, but then the Supreme Court got involved, keeping it in place just before Christmas. If you can remember, there was a big surge at the border then under the expectation that it would be lifting December 21st. Now we thought it would be on hold at least until June when the Supreme Court had a chance to weigh in. But under this new ruling, this new announcement from the Biden administration that it's lifting all public health emergencies, there's a new expectation and plan from the White House to lift it on May 11th when all of the other COVID public health emergencies lift. But of course, the court could intervene and say that lifting it on May 11th still violates the stay that they put on this in December. It's a question of whether or not this new mechanism for lifting Title 42 does comport with the court's ruling. And we'll have to see how the Supreme Court reacts to that, as well as how Republican states who have sued to keep Title 42 in place react to that. They could launch a new lawsuit.
And Julie, doesn't this set up a bit of a paradox? I mean, House Republicans voted earlier this week to end the COVID health emergency earlier than May. That would effectively remove Title 42 earlier, too. Is that expected to go anywhere in the Senate? And do Republicans have a plan to keep Title 42 on the books?
Right. That's not expected to go anywhere in the Senate, but it did send a very strange signal to these 20 Republican-led states that have been charging hard to keep Title 42 in place, because whether or not the Republicans in the House knew it or not, when they voted to try to lift the public health emergencies immediately, meaning this week, they would have effectively lifted Title 42 and gone against the wishes of those 20 Republican-led states, or at least the governors that lead them. So it really sets them up for this catch-22 here. They want to lift COVID restrictions. They don't want federal funding to be spent on tests and masks and all these things. They want everything to return to status quo, forget the pandemic, but they do want Title 42 to stay in place because it keeps migrants from coming across the border.
Julie, very confusing. Thank you so much. Coming up, key evidence in the trial of the South Carolina lawyer accused of killing his wife and son.
And what we're learning about the cell phone video Alex Murdaugh's son took just moments before his murder, and the key detail prosecutors say that could reveal. That's next.
We are back with new developments in the trial against prominent South Carolina lawyer Alex Murdaugh. Fresh testimony and a damning cell phone video were presented in court yesterday, detailing the moments just before his wife and son were murdered. NBC News correspondent Katie Beck has the latest.
A pivotal day of evidence and testimony in the Alex Murdaugh trial. Prosecutors saying one cell phone video places Murdaugh at the crime scene minutes before the murders.
Give it. Get me.
Prosecutors argue a cell phone video taken by Paul Murdaugh places his father, Alex Murdaugh, at the crime scene minutes before he and his mother were murdered.
Hey, he's got a burn in his mouth.
Prosecutors say this video proves Alec was there and disproves the alibi he gave to investigators that he wasn't at the crime scene that night until he discovered the bodies.
And what voices did you hear?
Paul's, Miss Maggie, Mr. Alec.
And how sure are you now?
Positive.
100%?
That's correct.
After playing the pivotal evidence for the jury Wednesday, testimony from Rogan Gibson, a friend of Paul Murdaugh, whose dog was staying at the family's kennel at the time. Gibson got a call from Paul in the kennel at 8:40 p.m. and recalls hearing Alec in the background. Paul then took a video of a rash on the dog's tail intended for Rogan at 8:44 p.m. It was never sent. Forensics show the last read text on Paul's phone just minutes later at 8:48, and Maggie's last read text a minute later at 8:49. The defense asking Rogan about the family dynamic. He describes loving relationships between all three.
Can you think of any circumstance that you can envision, knowing them as you do, where Alec would brutally murder Paul and Maggie?
Not that I can think of.
Prosecutors pushing back once more.
How long have you known Alec Murdaugh?
Pretty much all my life.
As you sit here today, did you really know him?
Yes, I knew Mr. Alec.
The final witness of the day was another close friend of Paul's who testified on the stand that he was 100% certain the three voices on the video were those of Paul, Maggie, and Alec Murdaugh. Back to you.
Katie Beck, thanks so much. Coming up on Morning News Now, more than $500 billion in COVID relief funds gone. Experts believe it's connected to one of the biggest scams in history. We have the new calls from Congress to find out what went wrong.
And Tom Brady says he's hanging up his jersey for good this time. We're taking a look back at his record-breaking 23 years in the NFL, including 7 Super Bowl wins, plus his next play off the field. Stay with us. Welcome back. Saving jobs was at the core of the government's COVID relief program, but now some experts are saying it may have led to the biggest financial scam in our country's history. That's thanks to massive misuse and fraud over this using taxpayer money. NBC News correspondent Tom Costello has the latest on the fallout.
3 years after the start of the pandemic, the size and scale of COVID-related fraud is staggering. Congress, under President Trump and then Biden, allocated an unprecedented $5 trillion in COVID rescue programs to save jobs, keep families fed, and businesses open. But government agencies failed to verify many of the claims. On Capitol Hill today, even the nation's top watchdog said they don't know how much money was stolen. By some estimates, $560 billion gone.
The public should know where money went. Congress needs to know where money went.
Who stole it? Investigators say cyber criminals, organized crime, Russian, Nigerian, and Chinese syndicates, and Americans who filed fake unemployment insurance and paycheck protection claims, often using stolen identities. Prosecutors say street criminals used the easy money to fuel the explosion of drugs, guns, and violence. Last year, we talked to Sacramento County's then DA.
We're talking about unemployment insurance fraud that could hit $100 billion nationally. Is this a fleecing of America?
It's the biggest fleecing of America I think we'll ever see. I sure hope it's the last and the worst we'll ever see.
So far, just 1,000 people have been convicted of COVID-related fraud, including Patrick Walsh, a blimp company owner who used stolen money to buy an island in the Gulf of Mexico, and a Florida man who used $1 million in fraudulent cash to buy a Mercedes SUV, jewelry, hotel, and travel expenses. Republicans blamed Democrats for the lack of oversight.
And every American should be outraged, and they should demand that Congress do something about it.
Democrats blamed Republicans.
The Trump administration regularly told agencies to ignore data reporting requirements.
Both sides are demanding more oversight going forward, but getting much of that stolen money back now is highly unlikely. It's your money and mine. Back to you.
All right, Tom Costello, thank you.
How does $500 a month, no strings attached sound? It's a concept known as guaranteed income. And while it's not a new theory, the notion of it has been at times criticized. Now more programs are popping up and people are hoping to change the conversation. Shaq Brewster has more now from Chicago.
Hi there. Well, the idea of universal basic income was front and center in the 2020 Democratic presidential primary. Andrew Yang proposing $1,000 a month for every American. That concept is now a temporary reality for thousands across the country, including families right here in Chicago.
Every month, Zenaida Moore gets a cash deposit from the city of Chicago, no strings attached.
It did take a lot of worry out for me, a lot of stress.
Moore is a single mother of 3, working 2 retail jobs 7 days a week.
They all come from perfect attendance or some other activity in school.
She's a participant in Chicago's Resilient Communities Pilot, a guaranteed income program that for 1 year gives $500 a month to 5,000 city residents.
What is the impact of that $500 every month?
Relief. My bills are caught up. It helps me throughout everything, whether it's bills, whether it's an activity, whether it's grocery shopping.
The $31.5 million program funded by federal COVID relief dollars is one of the largest cash assistance programs in the country.
Cash is a simple and powerful way for governments to support residents who are working hard to regain stability and build a better life for themselves and their families.
According to the city, 71% of participants are women, 68% identifying as Black, 24% Latino or Hispanic. And a new first look report from University of Chicago researchers shows the average household income for recipients is just over $15,000.
Was there anything in here that surprised you?
I think the one thing that really surprised me is the mental health and the psychological distress results.
1 in 3 applicants, according to their research, experiencing psychological distress for more than half of the previous month, 5 times more than the comparable national population.
And this wasn't during 2020, it wasn't during 2021, this is April of 2022.
Across the country, there are more than 100 cash assistance and guaranteed income programs launched, most on a temporary basis. An independent preliminary analysis of a smaller program out of Stockton, California, found that after 1 year, recipients had reduced income volatility, were unable to find full-time employment, and were healthier with lower levels of depression and anxiety. Opponents say these programs are unsustainable and misguided.
They want to keep all the different programs, want to keep the heating assistance, want to keep the housing assistance, want to keep the food, and then just top it off with another $500 as if it's the last $500 that's stopping kind of the progress that we want to see.
It's a stigma out there that says that working people, they got it. They don't need any help. We do. We need help. We might seem like we're functioning, but everybody needs help in some type of aspect of their life.
And that help is now just months away from coming to an end. One thing to note here is that even opponents of cash assistance programs, they say that there's broad consensus among economists that this doesn't add to inflation. It doesn't contribute to rising costs in our economy. But advocates say that more data, more of these pilot programs will only help make their case in the future. That full report from the University of Chicago is set to be released next week. Back to you.
Shaq Brewster, thank you.
Well, after announcing his first retirement exactly 1 year ago to the day, Tom Brady has now called it quits for a second time. As we first reported yesterday morning, the NFL legend says he's retiring for good in a video he posted on social media. NBC News contributing correspondent Kaylee Hartung joins us now with more on Brady's big news. It's deja vu all over again, Kaylee.
Yeah, hey, good morning, Stephen. Now, stop me if you have heard this one before. No, actually don't, because you have. Tom Brady is officially retiring from the NFL, and we are hearing it from the GOAT himself. This comes exactly a year after first saying he would move on from football, but now he says he is hanging up his cleats for real this time.
The NFL's winningest quarterback is calling it quits again.
I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good.
On Wednesday, 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady announcing the end of his more than 2 decades-long career.
You only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I used mine up last year, so.
Brady's re-retirement comes exactly 1 year after he first said he was walking away from the game. But just 40 days later, Brady called an audible and returned. He spoke about the decision last June on Today.
What happened at home that led you to say, you know what? I got to get back out there.
I think personal conversations with people that support me. Obviously, I don't have a lot left. I mean, this is a game for young people. I just think competitively, I felt like, I got to give it another chance.
Playing first for the Patriots, then the Buccaneers, Brady's prolific career stat sheet boasts more than 89,000 yards passing, 649 touchdown passes, and 251 wins, all NFL records.
Thank you guys so much to every single one of you for supporting me.
The announcement comes after a tumultuous 23rd season, the only losing season of his career. As it began, Brady showed signs of stress off the field.
I'm 45 years old, man. There's a lot of going on, so, you just gotta try to figure out life the best you can.
2 months later, he and supermodel Gisele Bündchen finalized their divorce after 13 years of marriage. Bündchen commenting on Brady's latest announcement, writing, "Wishing you only wonderful things in this new chapter of your life." Now, as fans flood social media with tributes, all eyes are on the GOAT's next play. Just hours before going public about his retirement, he was on the red carpet for the premiere of the film 80 for Brady and has already signed a 10-year, $375 million contract with Fox Sports to become an NFL analyst, signaling Brady won't be far from the game he loves.
Thank you guys for allowing me to live my absolute dream. I wouldn't change a thing.
You can see him tearing up right there. Now, Tom Brady has already started building his life after football. He has his own production company, his successful health and wellness brand, TB12 Sports. There's a clothing line, and yes, that monster sports broadcasting contract. But no matter what he does, his legacy in the NFL will be the stuff of legend. As the Buccaneers pointed out, if you broke his career up into parts, he would have a case for immortalization in the Hall of Fame for every decade he's been in the league. We'll see you in Canton, Tom.
Yeah, hard to top that, and we've certainly not heard the last of him. Kaylee, thanks so much. Now for our financial headlines. Peloton stock saw a big comeback after some confident statements from its CEO.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us right now. Good morning, Silvana.
Hey, good morning, Lindsay, Steven. Let's start with shares of Peloton because they're seeing their best day on record despite the fitness company reporting a more than $300 million loss in its latest quarter. The stock is up nearly 40% this week after dropping more than 75% last year. Peloton CEO saying an epic comeback is underway. The company has been racing to reverse falling demand for its bikes and treadmills and attract more subscribers to its fitness classes. OpenAI is launching a paid version of ChatGPT. The new service, ChatGPT Plus, will cost $20 a month, and subscribers will have access to the popular chatbot during peak usage times. The current free version limits service when lots of people are using it. They'll also be able to try out new features early and get faster response times. ChatGPT Plus will be available in the coming weeks, and you can sign up to a waiting list right now. OpenAI will continue to offer free access to ChatGPT. Samsung says it's working on a mixed reality headset to compete with Apple's rumored AR and VR device. Now, Samsung didn't show off a preview of the headset during its Unpacked event yesterday, but the company confirms it's been developing XR or extended reality technology in a partnership with Google and Qualcomm. Samsung says it's also working with Meta and Microsoft to provide software for the headset, guys. So,
Ooh,
future.
Yeah.
Go skiing or something.
Yeah, why not, right?
Safe, but fun. All right. Silvana, thank you so much.
Coming up, Beyonce announces a major world tour. And after the Taylor Swift Ticketmaster debacle, the Beehive is hoping the ticket sales won't break their soul. What we know about the rollout this time around.
Plus, how would you like to get grandma's cooking anytime you want it? Well, you can do that at one New York restaurant where grandmothers are the chefs. How they're bringing family favorites from all different cultures to that menu. That's coming up. Welcome back. Fire rescue officials in Palm Beach County, Florida, responded to an unlikely emergency earlier this week. Get this, a Ferrari got stuck in an elevator shaft. Look at that. That's at a Florida Ferrari dealership. They made the call Tuesday afternoon. Emergency crews actually thought they were racing to put out a structural fire, but instead they found that luxury car just hanging by a thread in that elevator shaft. Turns out the elevator malfunctioned while trying to transport the car, and removing it took about 4 hours. The car, as you saw there, left with plenty of bumps and bruises, but thankfully no people were hurt in that.
And I dropped my keys down the elevator shaft a couple
Really?
weeks ago. That's worse.
Wow, yeah, that's a little bit worse. The Ferrari, a bit worse.
Yeah,
Man.
a little bit. It is a huge week for music news, with one major star about to hit the road to start her highly anticipated tour.
Yeah, meanwhile, another rock legend has bowed out of the rest of his tour due to an injury. Here to break it all down for us is Joe Lynch. She's the executive digital director of Billboard. So good morning to you, Joe. Beyonce, the megastar we're talking about here, no secret there, announced that huge world tour. It'll be her first in 7 years. Tour dates in America and Europe. So many people excited about this, but the last artist on this level to announce a tour, Taylor Swift, and we cannot forget the huge fallout over tickets. So what is being done to prevent that from happening this time around?
I mean, that's a great question, and this is, precisely what's being debated in the Senate right now, with Ticketmaster essentially blaming scalpers, specifically scalper bots, for the whole debacle, whereas fans are more angry at Ticketmaster and, blaming them for the situation. I mean, the reality is that there are going to be scalper bots that are going to affect any major artist, announcing a tour of Beyonce's magnitude. The Taylor Swift situation was also rather unique in that, Taylor Swift is at this crazy point in her career when the demand just immensely outweighs the amount of seats these tickets or the amount of seats these arenas can hold. Beyonce is incredibly popular. Do I think it'll be a disaster on the same lines as Taylor Swift Eras tickets? Probably not. I think that it'll be a difficult situation for fans trying to score tickets, but I don't think it'll warrant the kind of catastrophic meltdown that we saw with Taylor Swift.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, again, to reiterate, Ticketmaster says it's not us, it's the bots, it's the cyber attacks.
Yes.
Let's move to another rock star here who is calling it quits on his tour, Ozzy Osbourne. What's going on?
Yeah, unfortunately, Ozzy Osbourne had some tour dates coming up that was supposed to kind of be, make up dates for COVID. And he had an injury a few years ago that he just hasn't fully recovered from. Basically, he had a fall during the night in 2019, and it exacerbated this ATV accident he had about 20 years ago. He had about 15 screws put into his back 4 years ago, and despite physical therapy, stem cells, just a number of treatments he's undergone, it hasn't helped, and he's just in too much pain and really unable to physically complete these tour dates. His voice is fine. He said, technically, if fans come to see him where he is, he could perform just fine. It's a matter of touring, going from city to city and country to country that's an issue. So his team is scrambling to kind of figure out what might work. But for the time being, it looks like Ozzy will probably not be able to tour ever again.
Well, hopefully they'll sort something out with that. Feel bad for him. And let's talk some Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now. Announced its 2023 nominees. So tell us who they are and how are they selected?
Yeah, the Rock Hall has about 15 nominees it announced for 2023. That doesn't mean all of them are getting in. There'll probably be about 6 or 7 who actually get inducted sometime this fall. The Rock Hall selection process is interesting and to some people controversial. It's a voting body of about 1,000 people internationally. Those are industry insiders, musicians, some critics. And there's also a fan vote. So people online can vote for their favorite artist to get in, and those votes will be tallied. The top 5 artists who receive the most votes will end up, that'll get taken into account when the Rock Hall decides who gets in this year. I think the easiest shoe-in for this year is the White Stripes. They got a nomination on their first year of eligibility. Eligibility means that your first release came out 25 years ago. The White Stripes are just, obviously pure rock and roll. Jack White has continued to kind of stump for rock and roll and vinyl record sales, so they're definitely going to put him in. Sheryl Crow also seems like a shoo-in. I mean, one of the biggest hit makers of the 90s and early 2000s, and, someone who's just been influenced by all kinds of, rock and country over the years. She's exactly the kind of artist the Rock Hall likes to reward.
Yeah, some big names there. Joe, thank you so much for that. And thanks for teaching me the term scalper bots. That sounds like something from the Terminator franchise. Had to Google it. Like that.
Scalper bot. Finally, this hour, the word nonna in Italian means grandmother. And for much of the past decade, a Staten Island restaurant has been bringing nonnas together to cook. NBC News correspondent Harry Smith brings us the story.
It's like a dream. Your beloved grandmother in the kitchen preparing family favorites.
Where were you born?
In Italia.
Is that where you learned how to cook?
Yeah. My nonna, my mother,
But Nona Maria cooks for customers, not your cousins, at a restaurant in Staten Island.
Aren't you supposed to be retired?
I like to work. I like to do.
You like to work.
I like to come every day.
Grandma's in the kitchen is the specialty of the house at Enoteca Maria.
It's magic.
Owner and proprietor Joe Scaravella.
I think the whole attraction with grandmothers, it's when you're growing up, that's like your safe space.
Over more than a decade, Scaravella has assembled a mini UN of abuelas, boobies, and nanas. Home cooking cuisines from Asia to the Middle East. Every night, a split menu, Italian and food from someplace else.
Something sort of magic happens every evening here. We're always anticipating what the different nonas bring.
I think I know plenty of grandmothers that aren't that good at cooking, but I've never seen one here. Oh, wow.
You want to try this too?
Especially when Nona Maria is holding forth.
You're a genius.
Oh, yeah? Thank you. When I come inside, my face is smile. I feel so good.
Us too. Harry Smith, NBC News, Staten Island.
Wow, love that.
Hungry.
Oh, yeah, always hungry. Well, that's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.